Hansen. Abby writes, hey, now that Disney Springs has reopened, how and when do you imagine Downtown Disney at Disneyland will reopen since it's so much smaller? This is a great question, guys, because we now know that Universal has a date to return. Disney Springs, as mentioned there, has returned. And there's discussion coming up this very week about when Walt Disney World theme parks will come back online. Do you imagine that we're going to see potentially the same strategy here in California when that eventually comes, that Downtown Disney might be the first to open? What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I think that's pretty likely that they'll start with Downtown Disney, but I still think that Florida and California are very different in their attitudes right now, and I don't know. I guess it's interesting what you were saying earlier today, Wade, how you noticed many people in Orange County were not wearing their masks, as opposed to the people in Los Angeles County. So maybe we're in Los Angeles County. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, and all the people in Orange are going to be clamoring for it to open. But
we just found out that Orange County is now opening like their malls and their restaurants and stuff. So they're trying to push it for opening.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think that it's going to take longer than Disney World. Disney World will definitely open first, and I think the company itself probably won't want to focus on both at the same time.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I think they'll want to focus all their attention on Disney World while that is happening. That's just my guess, but I don't think we're going to see it till very late summer at the earliest. But I could be very wrong. I was wrong about when Disney World would open. Well, we don't even know yet, I guess. But I was wrong about Disney Springs opening. I didn't think they were going to even open Disney Springs yet. So
sure.
I don't know, man. It sounds very dangerous to me, but I guess we shall see.
Oh, throw caution to the wind and let the magic begin. My goodness. Katrina, when it comes to maybe the hotels, do you think the hotels might get incorporated into Downtown Disney reopening, or do you think the hotels will be like pushed off down the line and that'll be the last thing to come back online?
Oh, man. I miss Trader Sam's, so I want the Disneyland Hotel to be open. I think a lot of people will be cheering as I say this because they're like, I miss Trader Sam's too. But I want to say they don't want people walking around the hotel. So I think that if they do phase in, like they're going to keep those shut and then only have access in like 2 points, or something, leading you into just Downtown Disney. And then that's it. Because I feel like once they get a grasp of, handling the people that are coming to Downtown Disney, then maybe they might start opening like the hotels. But I just feel like people walking around the hotels are bad because it's just like, people hanging out and then causing like, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Chaos.
Congestion.
No, I don't know. I just like, because there's a lot of people that just like wander around and like sit at the hotels. And I don't think Disney wants that yet.
Linger.
I think they want to contain it.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's important too is that Disney Springs has kind of a lot more to do at it than Downtown Disney does. So even if they opened up Downtown Disney, you would really just go there for a meal or something and then leave. And they barely have any quick serve. I don't want to go to any of that quick service, to be honest with you. I mean, there's much more exciting quick service at Disney Springs. So
that's for sure.
I would only want to go if like all the restaurants were open, and that's going to be, kind of hit or miss with all the social distancing that needs to happen. So I don't know. Is there a reason for them to open Downtown Disney? I mean, I guess, but it's just not as great of a reason as Disney Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got a lot of third-party participants that, in Downtown Disney that I'm sure probably have different priorities than Disney does, in terms of reopening and getting their businesses back online, and may want to do that quicker. As we saw, a lot of third-party businesses even took a while to close down at Disney Springs beyond when everybody else started to really close down. And as somebody who was, there on the final day of Disney property being open in Downtown Disney in its final hours, most of the the third-party stores were closed. The Disney stores, as a Disney-owned and operated locations, were the only ones that I really saw up and running. There was like one or two third-party destinations that still had open doors when I got there, and it was just very eerie. We have that video at the Kingdom Report on YouTube, and it's called Shuttered Kingdom, and it's a great look at how the property was faring in its final hours. And the parks were closed at that point. The hotels had just closed upon my arrival, and downtown Disney itself was eerily quiet. So you can check that out at the Kingdom Report on YouTube. Garrett, being our Walt Disney World reporter, tell us a little bit about, obviously Disney Springs is so much bigger, right? Disney Springs is such a widespread atmosphere. There's so much more to do in that environment. It's like, 4 or 5 times the size of downtown Disney even. It's like got a waterfront on one end. There's just so much more in that capacity. You think about downtown Disney at Disneyland. Are you somebody that would be concerned, especially if you were to come out from the Florida Inn, are you somebody that would be concerned that maybe it's a little too congested? Maybe not enough room to social distance?
Yeah, Disney Springs is very spread out, where there's multiple avenues and nooks that you can go into to explore, while downtown Disney is just pretty much a straightaway from the hotels of Disneyland down to the park. So there's not much to do, and it can be cramped. I remember when I've gone down there, even for a day or so, just getting from the parks to say Naples Restaurante, just getting there was kind of congested, where there's not much room. There's so many people in such a small area. It's a great area for socializing and having a fun night. And if you're there for a few days, or if you're a local, it's a great area for that night. I love downtown Disney, but it's a little cramped for my taste. Disney Springs is just very, very wide. Even from what I've seen with guests now that it's reopened, I can still see how wide it is. While downtown Disney, there's many areas where you get really cramped, especially the bridge that would take you from, say, the monorail station down to the main area towards Walt Disney. There's that one bridge where you'd have vendors along the sides, and you're just stuck in there, just like a conveyor belt going through. So yeah, Disney Springs is definitely the place I'd rather have to go to if I had to choose between the two. But hopefully downtown Disney will reopen, but I could honestly see the parks reopen before I see downtown Disney reopen. If I know that doesn't make much sense, but I could see that happen just because there's so much more room in the Esplanade, as well as, or Esplanade, however you pronounce it, along with just the parks in general. So downtown Disney, that I could see that being put on the back burner, or they're going to have to be a lot stricter than they are at Disney Springs. That's for dang sure.
Yeah, obviously the setup of the Disneyland Resort physically is so dramatically different than, Disney Springs. Disney Springs is a destination that you can travel to. Downtown Disney is sort of, if anybody's never been there, it's wedged between both theme parks. So you have California Adventure one side, Disneyland on the other, and then right down the middle is downtown Disney, and that all leads to the opposite end of the property, which goes right into sort of the Disneyland Hotel and the hotels of the resort. So it is very different, in terms of how the size and even how the flow of things work there. You've got a parking garage at one end near the hotel side, and then you've got the street side up near the park. So everything in this capacity, in this resort capacity, is very different than what you would experience at, say, at Disney Springs. And so I think you might be right, Garrett. I don't necessarily imagine that you're going to see downtown Disney come online and not the parks. I almost feel like they would want to do, an all-encompassing opening for the sake of having room, to have people move around in. Just because, if you open up downtown Disney, those corridors can be very thin based on where you might be, especially outside of like the World of Disney store. You're right up against some rock work right there. I mean, those sidewalks can be really small. And so that might entirely be possible that they want to wait. But I think that the third-party participant, third-party operator storefronts and stuff might be applying a little bit of pressure in the regard to open downtown Disney. So we'll see. It's a lot of great speculation. But I think the downtown Disney itself may in fact wait for the theme parks to come back online, just because of the way things are set up at Disneyland. It's a tucked away category itself. Tyler, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just thinking about some of the businesses there too. Like, I mean, the Lego store is one thing. They're not going to be able to put Legos out anymore to play with. But what do you think is going to happen to the Void?
Yeah, right.
Doesn't know that's like a virtual reality thing where you have to wear a helmet, you have to be in a small little room with a group of people. Is that business just gone now? We'll see. I'm very curious.
Changes everything. You're absolutely right. And yeah, I thought about the Lego store first myself. As like, oh, kids aren't going to be asked to play with those Legos anymore. You know, they're probably going to have to move those buckets out of the way. But you're right. When it comes to things like the Void and virtual reality and everybody wearing headsets and feeling things, and businesses are having to be rethought through this whole process, unfortunately. And what we knew is not what we're going to know until we can all be done safely. So hoping for Downtown Disney to come back online very soon.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.